Welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I like to call this Monday Night Football, but today is Wednesday, so no Monday Night Football for us. Let's go ahead and get started. Lots and lots to talk about today on the chat. My name is Wiesel from Food Mex Nation. This is an all-long podcast dedicated to all things Mexican football. Today, we're going to be talking all about the Confederations Cup, the ending, the fourth place finish. Also, Gold Cup is coming up. We finish one tournament, we do another. That's how Mexico rolls. Some Mexicans abroad news, but let's start with a question, the question of the day, and ask our experts. If FIFA rankings were based solely on the talent within the national team and those eligible, where would Mexico land? And we'll start with Mr. Tom Marshall, who is back from traveling to Russia, getting all of it. I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk to him all about his experience. But Tom, realistically, where are we?
We're supposed to have prepared the question.
Yeah. Man, it's in our planning.
I'd say 17.5.
17?
No, about in talent, player for player talent, Mexico, I'd say around the 20 mark, somewhere between 16 and 20.
Okay,
does that sound right?
So we can't get to the quinto partido. That's
no.
Realistically. Mr. Cesar Hernandez en la ciudad de San Diego.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Yeah. I think Tom's kind of has the right idea, but I'd go a little bit higher, and I don't mean higher as in like 19 or 20. I mean lower. I'm gonna say like 14, 15.
You mean higher or lower?
You know what? I'm confusing myself already, but you know what I'm talking about. A higher ranking, but not literally higher on the number. Anywho. We're off to a great start here. But yeah, I'd say around 14 or 15. I think Mexico has a talent to just kind of like sneak up there. They're not, I think one thing's for sure is that they're not a top 10 team, but I don't think they're past the 20 mark. But yeah, I'd say it's somewhere, 14, 15 would be around where I would put them.
All right. Let's see when we sent this out to our Twitter followers here, the Mexican Soccer Show. Tony Medina said, teams that are better, Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, Chile, Spain, Germany, Portugal, Italy, Colombia, Netherlands, France. 12th is about right. Carlos from Carlos Ugasi at Carlos Ugasi said, I'm going to cop out and just appeal to our usual place in the World Cup. Top 16, maybe top 12. There's no proof we're better than that. And Jimmy voice of Jimmy, depends on who's on the team. If Chofis is there, I say number 3 or number 4. There goes the answer. Now, it's hard to predict on it, right? But I think Tony didn't have it right. I don't think a top 10. But, I mean, with this team, I feel we can beat and we can play against the best and score against the best, but they'll score 5 or 6 goals on us. So if we just score more goals, I think we can win, which is the logic of soccer, right?
That's a fascinating strategy there, Wiesel. I like it.
I'm just telling you, but we're going to get a bunch of goals. In order to win the match, you got to score more goals.
Yeah. No, it is interesting, though, because, I mean, I'm just looking at the rankings now with Mexico in 17th, and there's a couple of teams above them. I mean, I'd probably say Mexico are better than Peru right now. You know, taking nothing away from Peru, I'd say, Mexico can go up against Poland, and, I don't think there's much in that.
Switzerland, I think is in there too.
And you also see teams that are right close to Mexico, which you think they can compete with. Like you would say, like Croatia. You would say Uruguay too. I think Mexico can compete with them, but like I said, I don't think they're a top 10 team.
No,
I think top 10.
It's almost, we talked about the Confederations Cup, right, with the 4th place finish, but it feels like we are just as good as Portugal without Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, that's a good assessment.
Are we gonna go straight into the Portugal game? Is this the transition into the Portugal game?
I'm just saying that, I'm like, when I saw that match that was coming up, I'm like, you know what? I think we could beat this Portugal team. I really thought. And it's without Cristiano Ronaldo. But when you add Cristiano Ronaldo, I'm like, I think Portugal has the edge, which they didn't in the game. But that's that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Portugal have got some. I don't know. I'd put Portugal ahead of Mexico even without Ronaldo. I think they've got some outstanding younger players. Bernardo Silva. What was it, 50-odd million going to Manchester City. Andre Silva just moved to AC Milan. I mean, I think Portugal is a slight step above, but I do agree with what you're saying and what Osorio says as well. That, on the day that Mexico can beat any other team, and I think probably apart from Germany. I mean,
Any other?
The thing is too. I mean, it almost happened. I mean, if Miguel Ayun had a little bit better job right there marking at the very end, we'd be having an entirely different conversation right now. That's something that I can't like stop thinking about, is if we wouldn't have allowed that late goal, just what kind of conversation would we be having right now? Not only just about the national team, but also Osorio. It's just
but I mean, I think that I mean, you know, obviously coming back from Russia, and it's like a 30-hour journey, so you got a lot of time to think. and it's one of the things that, I mean, I think, you know, we get focused on, you know, Oswaldo Alanis, why was he playing left back? And it's a fair question. You know, Miguel Layún making the mistake for goals, and you know, Hector Moreno being pulled out of position for you know, in Germany's first two. But at the end of the day, it's like, I think the wider question is, Mexico have to keep producing better quality players, have to increase the depth pool that they've got. And I think that's the route to kind of, you know, making this, you know, we've just said basically between 15 and 20, more or less. You know, there's not much difference between what they're saying. I think that's a rational way of looking at it. But I mean, until Mexico get those players and get a greater depth, and particularly what you said, we saw. I mean, I'm not saying Mexico need the Ronaldo, but I think the big difference between, say, Mexico right now and Chile is two players. I think Alexis Sanchez and Arturo Vidal. They're exceptional elite players that absolutely drive the team, can produce special moments. And I don't think Mexico have got those players. I think if you take those two out, Mexico and Chile, there's not a big difference between the two.
Well,
I think you add those two. Hey?
Half of them are playing in Mexico.
Yeah, half of them are playing in Mexico, exactly, yeah.
We'll get into this later too. And also, I mean, regardless of the results, it was just nice to see Mexico going up against top competition outside of CONCACAF. And that's just something I want to see more often. Whether we're going to see that or not, I think it's doubtful, but it was just nice to see Mexico taking on Russia in Russia. It was nice to see Mexico taking on Germany, Portugal. That's what they need to do in order to reach the next level. But yeah, we could get into that later, just how important these games are. And I know this was a warm up to the World Cup and whatnot, but I want to see more of that. I really do hope.
Hey, I mean, I go back to the Germany match, and I go back if Tecatito was there. I know in like what ifs and what's going on, but Tecatito was there. Maybe a defensive mid, a true right back, and Guardado. I think, you know, I could see this team doing great things, but there are just little things that I don't know if, obviously, what happened with Tecatito and what happened with Guardado, you can't do anything about. And then obviously the choices of players that Osorio brought. That's what excites me about this Mexico team, is that we always knew. For example, I can remember back, I'm like, yeah, we don't have amazing players that can do amazing things at one point. I mean, I never saw Mexico, you know, going over the top of a Germany. I feel that or a bigger team, I feel that we can do it if everything just aligns correctly. And that's where it kind of gives me a little bit of hope that we have a year to correct everything. But then what if we don't? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You go up against Germany in the World Cup, Mexico's going to be a heavy underdog. You know, but I think any other team would be. You need to play against Germany. You need to play a perfect game. Yeah, you need a bit of luck as well. And I think Osorio said it. I think in his last press conference in Russia, he said, you know, we need the man upstairs to kind of
Infantino?
to help us a little bit. Yeah, Infantino. You know, he said, you know, the injuries to Salcedo and Reyes, both in the same position, you know, didn't help at all. Then you've got Guardado suspended, but you know, at the end of the day, I don't know. It's got to be a long-term process, and it can't be. I mean, this conversation is really interesting because the way we've started this conversation is completely the opposite to the conversation that's going on in Mexico right now. You know, the conversation in Mexico is, it's a disaster. Why is Osorio making all these ridiculous moves? Like Hugo Sanchez asking for him to be fired. Like high-profile pundits just completely saying Osorio doesn't know what he's doing, and I don't know. I mean, that's the.
But Tom, I mean, if it's all about results and it's all about that, I mean, that's, you know, we're seeing it one way, right? Because he's getting the results. But you have to at least say that he made a lot of mistakes. He's made a lot of mistakes in the last 5. So I think that's where that's coming from. You're making mistakes and it's not corrected. Have we, and Tom, have you corrected what happened against Chile? Because I was the one that said, you know what, that's an anomaly. You know, those players, I don't think it would happen again.
Yeah.
Bam, Germany. You know, which I still think, I'm like, that 4-1, I don't feel like it's a good score, but there it is again. So
the fascinating thing about that 4-1 loss too is that, like, I know when I've been hearing other podcasts, I've been listening to other people, like outside of Mexico, outside the Mexican fan base, like people were giving Mexico a lot of credit. They're saying that the 4-1 result wasn't really indicative of like how good that match was for Mexico. I'm not saying Mexico deserved to win or even get a draw, but I think that Mexico had a decent showing there against the Germans. But it's just fascinating to see that perspective outside of from what we're saying, outside
Well,
what
I
the
don't care.
saying. It's just,
I mean, it makes sense. You care about your team. You're going to say, I want it now. I was talking with Jason. I mean, if there was a chance to let go of Osorio, it shouldn't have been now. Now there's no way. It's not like he's going to fail the next 3 World Cup qualifiers or the friends that it comes in. If they didn't make a choice, unless Osorio goes and punches a reporter, which hold on a second, he's got a little crazy on the sideline there,
Yes, yeah.
right,
Yeah.
Mr. Osorio. I don't see
everyone said they wanted Piojo, so there you go. You know, you got
There you go. What? I don't know. So we'll continue that. But let's talk about before we start talking, and we kind of already did with the Confederations Cup. Russia, Tom, how was it? Tell us. We're gonna be there in 1 year, right? You sent you as our guinea pig. You sent you as the one to test the waters, as the one to tell us all the great things and come back with, this is what you got to do. This is where you got to stay. This is what you got to eat. Just a little bit for all the fans that are out there that are planning on going to Russia. Tell us a little bit about your experience, man. I mean, it's normally when we go, we can speak our language, right? I mean, English or Spanish, somewhere in the world, we're able to come back. But was that a big problem with everything in Russia and language barrier?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general it was great. I mean, I had a really good time. Obviously busy working, but I don't know. I thought the Russians were really a lot more open than I thought it'd be. Obviously, you know, the stereotypes often aren't true, and you know that from the Mexicans' perspective as well. But yeah, they were very open. I think people wanted to talk to you if you were speaking a different language. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you go to a restaurant and if the menu's not in anything to do with English and there's no photos, then you really are struggling. But but I think Mexico fans in particular, I think, you know, one of the things of the tournament was that Mexico became the Russian second team. You know, in against Germany, all the fans in Sochi were cheering for Mexico, going Mexica, Mexica. And then in the game against Portugal, from early on, even before the game, all the Russians were shouting for Mexico. It was crazy. But I mean, outside the stadiums, in the streets, everybody knows about Mexico fans, how dressing up in costumes and, you know, really bringing a party atmosphere to wherever they play. And Russians just absolutely loved it. It's like they'd never seen anything like it before. I mean, one of the features of the tournament for Mexico fans was just like lines of Russians just taking turns to take pictures with the Mexico fans. And it was incredible to see. And I don't know, there was just it was quite a warm atmosphere. I thought, you know, the transport was good. The food was a lot better than I thought it'd be. And I think Mexico fans going will have an absolutely great time. I know the ones that went for the Confederations Cup just loved it. I think mainly people were surprised by what Russia was like, really.
Yeah. Tom, how about as far as organization? I mean, you've seen, I don't know, the some stuff in Guadalajara, international tournaments in Guadalajara. You've traveled abroad, and as far as organization, what do you think? Is it ready for a World Cup? Do they have the infrastructure and all of that? I know the Sochi Winter Olympics got a lot of heat because of hotels not finished and stuff like that. But what do you think as far as transportation and all that?
No, I think it's going to be. I think it'll work fine. I think the Russian government are just so focused on making it happen, making it work. You know, I thought the security was very good. You know, there's issues with a couple of venues, and I think the base camps for the teams. There's a couple. I think there's one in Chechnya, which I'm not sure who's going to want to be based in Chechnya because you know there's a war not too long ago there. So you know, but Sochi it's just a vacation resort. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to be there. I mean, the weather's absolutely great. There's a beach and stuff that you can swim in the sea. I think it's going to be surprisingly good. What I would say for fans planning to go is make sure you've got your fan ID because this initiative from FIFA now, if you don't have a ticket, you're gonna struggle to get into games. It's not like previous World Cups where you could perhaps buy one on the black market. I mean, I think this time FIFA know exactly who's bought the tickets, where they're from, their address, the country. And I think that's the thing with the chant as well. One of the reasons I don't think we heard the goalkeeper chant from Mexico fans is that was transmitted to them from the federation. I mean, if somebody, you know, is obviously there's cameras inside the stadium. If you're caught doing the chant, you've got no argument. I mean, you can individually see who's doing what within the stadium. You know the seat number, you know where they are, and you can track where the fan ID fan
Yeah.
ID comes from, and then they can take that off you and they can ban you from going to games. So I think it's very well controlled from a security point of view. But yeah, it was great fun, and yeah, like I said, Mexican, not just the fans but the journalists. I think, it's just there's certain countries like my country, England, where sometimes we're not very welcome in certain places. But I think it's very different with Mexico fans, and the journalists.
Well, good to see that little piece. I think all of us were looking at all the Facebook lives that you did and everything. We appreciate.
Yeah, I was telling Tom I was living vicariously through his Instagram posts, all that stuff. It was great, man. I loved it.
I was like, wow, we shared it all. So I'm glad you're back. But then obviously, lots of travel. But it's awesome to get that at least that 1 year, kind of pre-work for that, and then you're gonna be ready for next year because Mexico's definitely going. All right, let's wrap up a little bit of the Confederations Cup just to get more of your thoughts. 4th place finish for Mexico. Obviously, the talk is Osorio, some of the players, but let's talk of the positive. Any players that you think took this tournament and their stock is up after the Confederations Cup?
I think one player that we have to bring up is Jonathan Dos Santos. We've always known that he has a possibility to be a vital figure in the national team, but I think he really stepped up just with his energy, his presence, and just, I don't know, there was just never a moment that he wasn't chasing the ball, that he wasn't trying to push for an interception, and I thought he did quite well. I think another one we have to bring up too is Hector Herrera, he seems to be kind of gaining. I'm not saying he was like one of the most exciting player, but I think he's slowly looking a little bit more consistent than he has in the past, because that's one thing that we've had such a problem with him is just for club and country. He's just been so inconsistent. So I think Herrera and also, Jonathan Dos Santos. But yeah, we've all seen Jonna too with just using some of those best 11s for the Confederations Cup.
Yeah, no, I think those two definitely. A quick point about Herrera. I think he played in a deeper role. I thought he was better. I thought he got more time on the ball. He thought he was distributing the ball well, and he played really well. Jonathan Dos Santos, I thought he set the tone more than anything with his intensity. Yeah. And when Mexico did good things, he was at the heart of it a lot of time. The only thing about Herrera, though, playing in that position, I think we saw against Germany, and it's not him not blaming him as an individual, but probably Osorio, when he goes back and he looks at the game and he's already done that. I think he said afterwards, well, that I don't know. It's just when you're playing a top team like that can absolutely destroy you on the transition, on the counter attack when you lose the ball. It's like Herrera's not that defensively minded, and I feel like if you put someone in there I don't know if Rafa Marquez is the answer, but Rafa or Diego, young Rafa or Diego Reyes, Diego Reyes or even Jesus Molina. A player who's more defensively minded, who's a strictly defensive midfielder who breaks up play. Obviously, it takes away from going forward, but I don't know. I think you can then play two proper fullbacks as well, and I think Osorio's kind of trying to balance all these things, and I don't know. I just thought the balance defensively was out, and I think it was because of that. But yeah, another player, I thought Araujo. I thought Nestor Araujo was very good.
I saw Nestor Araujo's on somebody's list of top players in the Confederations Cup. I was kind of scrolling through. A lot of the international media saying that Nestor Araujo played a great Confederations Cup.
Yeah, I thought he was really good. I thought he, really is. Well, obviously the Copa America last summer, but really came out on the international stage. And I know it's no surprise now that there's teams in Germany looking at him, and hopefully he can make that move because I think Osorio deserves a lot of credit for that as well, because he has kind of personally picked out Araujo.
Everybody laughed at it when we saw it come up. I mean, we're
yeah. And Osorio said this guy has got the attributes that I'm looking for in a centre back. And he's backed him.
Yeah, I think we also have to give credit to I think Ochoa and Vela too. I think they had definitely. I'm not gonna say that they're the best for Mexico, but they had their moments of brilliance, especially with Ochoa in that game against Portugal. I mean, we all saw that 2014. Like it was just like flashback to the 2014 match against Brazil, and he was just brilliant in that. And you're just hoping, you're keeping your fingers crossed that he's gonna either move to a bigger club or he's either gonna get serious minutes, or it's just you see a performance like that and it's frustrating just to see what his club situation is like. So I think we have to mention Ochoa, and once again Vela. I think he was a little off during a couple of the games, but like I said, I think looking forward, I mean, it's just you think that spot on the right wing is just going to be his for quite some time, unless he has another drop in form. But I thought he had moments where he impressed me as well.
I didn't get a chance to see the Portugal match live. In fact, I watched it later on, and it was a great match, interesting match, and obviously kind of coming down to the last minute. And once again, when that happened, I go, well, there's that payback from the first game. All right, I'd rather us have that opportunity, because of that loss would have been a little bit more. I mean, I think we would have still qualified. But going back and forth with Portugal, I asked you guys, because we didn't really get a chance to talk about, did we see a better Mexico against Portugal than Germany, at least?
I think so. I think they were, at least starting 11-wise, I was quite happy with what we saw there. I would have preferred maybe to see Jonathan Dos Santos in there, maybe find a way for him in there. But I think I thought I was quite impressed, especially with the attack. I thought the attack did quite well. I think the defense, they had some bad moments, like especially with Layun, those couple of crucial mistakes, which just, I mean, cost them the game. But no, I thought Mexico, like I said earlier, like if we didn't allow that last second goal, we'd be having an entirely different conversation. Or at least I feel like we should be having.
Would we really? I mean, if they would have won that game, okay, third place. I mean, I guess maybe we would have given them a little more credit, but
that's still historic.
I think the conversation would be in Mexico. Let's get rid of Osorio.
I think that's still a historic win over Portugal, though, and especially after it would 2 matches against Portugal in the Confederations Cup, and one's a draw and the next is a win. Even without Cristiano Ronaldo, I think that's still something worth highlighting.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying, I think the people that have a straight head would be okay, you know. But I'm not saying, I just don't think it would have been that huge of a results, because, again, we would be like, yeah, there's the results. They got the third Confederations Cup, but then losing to Germany with 4 goals. What happened in there? But Tom, I mean, to you, Mexico, did Osorio learn something from Germany? Did we see a different Mexico, or is it pretty much still the same as? I mean, if we would have won that game, it wouldn't have been any difference.
I think that we saw the players come out fired up. I thought they took the game absolutely seriously. I thought the weaknesses were still there. They gave away too many chances all tournament. It was too easy for opposition teams to slice through. And I thought, again, Portugal could have scored a couple of goals in that first half. They deserved to be winning at half time against Mexico. So you know, it's a problem. It's definitely a problem. But yeah, I mean, I thought the players responded. I thought that in terms of effort, Chicharito was giving absolutely everything, flying into tackles on the left wing, and you know, it is what it is. I mean, that's where Mexico's at right now, and the challenge from now till the World Cup is for Osorio to find ways, to find formations, to find maybe a couple of other players. I mean, this team isn't going to change a lot between now and next year, but maybe 1 or 2 players that can come and stake a claim and improve the squad. You know, I don't know. You know, Irving Lozano for me were very disappointing when he got minutes. I thought he looked. I don't know. I think at international level so far he's not done it, and that's problematic. And we want to see more from him. And I think the big players as well, the players with experience that are absolute leaders. Hector Moreno made a couple of mistakes. Yeah. Moreno has to lead the defense. He's playing for Roma. He's been playing part of this national team for almost 10 years now. You know, Chicharito up front. You know, it was 2-0 down against Germany. He has a chance just before half time. It was a good chance that, you know, you look back at the replay and you think, top striker, you got to put that in. You know, if you know, and he didn't. And I think that it's those crucial moments where you want your experienced players. So forget about Alanis playing left back and all the criticism that Osorio, you know, the big players didn't step up at vital times for me. And I think that was part of the problem in Russia.
I feel like it's like a positive in Mexico's team and a negative in Mexico's team. Because when they win, it's those individual, you know, let's look at that Portugal game, right? That very last Hector Moreno header in, who's been a player that has scored the most goals as a defender in his league. But then he doesn't step up, and then Mexico loses. The players have to play at their top in order to win those big games. That's what it comes down to. When one of those it does not, especially in the defense, you're going to get those goals going in. And when players miss, great players miss in the front like Chicharito did, or or Raul Jimenez or anybody, we're not going to be able to score those goals against those teams, because unless they're going to give us, defensive mistakes, which rarely happen against top teams, they're in there. We have to be thinking that our players have to be playing at the level that their opponents are there.
Yeah, and really quickly about Moreno, I will say too, I was very disappointed by him, just because I mean, speaking of consistency earlier today, I think for a while he has been that rock in the middle of the defense. He was that one guy I feel like you could count on so many matches, and it was disappointing to see him making so many mistakes in the back line. So yeah, I was quite disappointed with him, despite the goal that he scored against Portugal. That was the equalizer.
Question. So we wrap up the Confederations. Tom, Germany winning this whole thing. Germany with a B team, apparently, that Mexico lost to a team of youngsters that, Lowe is just trying to get to the next World Cup. I'd had Germany winning, and I bet one of my Chilean friends that they weren't going to win this tournament. But does at least vindicate a little bit against the competition that Mexico went? And number two, how do you see Chile as, losing this, which, it was a big statement that the German B team was able to win against a great Chile team that has won the Copa America twice.
Yeah, I just think Germany are freaks. Like they're just an outlier right now. I mean, I know Spain and France, but I think two nations that have done absolutely great work. And you look at the depth of talent. Chile doesn't have that. Let's be honest. Chile have got a golden generation that have really well worked, starting with Bielsa and then carried on Sampaoli and Pizzi, and they're working it and they're getting the most possible. But Germany are absolutely ridiculous. Some of those young players are just sensational. To think that's not the best team that Germany has is scary. Scary for everybody else. But I'll tell you what, after that game, I spoke to Oliver Bierhoff, who's the general manager of the German team. He's been there since Lowe came in 2006. So Lowe's it's almost 11 years since he took over as the national team coach. In that time, Mexico has had, I think it's 13 managers. So you talk about process, you talk about the generations coming through and somebody overlooking all this. And also, crucially, the way the league and the federation work together so that German players are getting chances in the Bundesliga. Osorio summed it up perfectly before that game, and he's saying, these players might be young, but they've already played 100 games in one of the best leagues in the world. Like you've come through really good youth systems that educate, that teach tactical awareness, the mental side of the game. Like it's almost like I said, it's scary that what the German clubs are producing in terms of the not just the quality of talent on the field, but off the field as well. And I think that that's what it's just a different level, even from Chile, to be honest. And I think that's what makes, I don't know, it's not a great secret. At some point, Mexico has to go through that kind of process. Spain did it, Portugal have done it, and the Portuguese, some of their young players are absolutely brilliant as well. And Germany have done it. And I think that's Mexico at some point has got to be doing that.
It's no surprise that also we got to mention that Germany also won the U21 Euros like around the same time. It's incredible what that team has been able to do.
Just one final quick thing on the Confederation. Something that annoyed me a little bit about the criticism was, I don't know, some people are saying that, Mexico need to be more pragmatic, blah, 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 and need to kind of know when to play a different style against better teams. I mean, I agree. You've got to be aware of the opposition. You've got to, know when not to attack. But I think Mexico can't kind of resign this or renounce the style. Mexican football style is brilliant. It's so attractive for the neutral fan. I mean, technically, absolutely brilliant. And I mean, the way they took the game, especially that first game against Portugal, playing the game in Portugal's half, the European champion. I mean, you are going to get caught out on the break and stuff. But I mean, for me, that's the Mexican footballer's DNA is to attack, to have the ball, to attack. And I think that Mexico has to carry that forward. They have to reinforce that idea rather than renouncing it and playing different ways. Because I tell you what, I don't think a Mexican team can play like Mourinho style, where you're reducing spaces, sitting deep. I just don't think it's in the philosophy or the upbringing of the Mexican player.
No, I think I was one of the ones that kind of said that, Tom. I think playing against Germany, going 2-2 against Germany was a bad idea. So in the way that we've been playing and our defense been playing, I'm not saying put 10 in the back, but again, the defensive mid, and it just came back to the players that we didn't have that we needed. If we didn't have Guardado, I feel like they were just running through the middle through it, right? So why not find a way to emphasize that? Even if we would have had Rafa Marquez for a half, I feel like at least it would have been a different type of stand, and you have to find it's like he uses the rotaciones of different players for different teams, but he continues to play almost the same way, which is kind of mind-boggling.
Even with the rotations too, it's not as if he. I mean, other than that second match against New Zealand, that was definitely almost a full overhaul. But I think for the most part, he does play a lot of the same options. If you look at certain players like Herrera, like Layud, you keep going down the list. There are a lot of options that he does actually frequently utilize. So he does. I think he does. He does utilize a lot of rotations, but I don't think it's to the extreme that we all make it out to be.
No, but I think the problem with the rotations is that. I mean, the positive is that you go into that Russia game and you've got your best players all absolutely fresh. And I don't think people point that out enough. I mean, you got a Russian team, and the second half they were knackered. You could see it. You could see it on the field. They were so tired, and Mexico had extra gear.
It was a gamble, though. I mean, in
the second game, it's the gamble.
We almost lost against New Zealand. That's the thing. So he
that's
won.
The gamble. Yeah, that's the gamble. That is the gamble, and that is the problem with the rotations. If you're in a World Cup group and your second game is against a half decent team, then you've got players there and they've not played together much and the system's different. Then I think it's a legitimate. People who are calling that out, it's a legitimate question. It's just sometimes the criticism with Mexico is just like throwing mud at the wall and hopefully something sticks. But that's a legitimate concern, though, 100%.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can see where it's not like like the criticism's coming out of nowhere. There's a lot of people that are fixed to see that Osorio is trying to do something with this team that is not going to get anywhere. And there has been evidence of 2 games against the elite team that we are getting just destroyed. But then I go back, I'm like, we played against Uruguay, it didn't work that way. We played against Portugal, it's not like 4-5-0. So I think I can just go back and forth with it. I can see both of the sides.
And in some of those games too, I feel like we have to bring up that just even his substitutions were a little. I feel like he's done really well in the past with substitutions, but I don't know. I felt it was a little strange with some of his substitutions in a couple of those matches, and I feel like that's something hopefully he can learn from in the future. But that was a little odd for him, just because I feel like he has done so well with closing out matches, with us perhaps criticizing him at first, and he brings on these brilliant substitutions.
Carlos Vela not playing against Germany. All right, not for the Confederations Cup. It got here. It's already gone.
Yeah,
we looked about a month ago and we said hopefully Mexico can get to that third place match, can at least get to the semifinals. It got there. I think the overall assessments, it wasn't a fracaso, but it wasn't anything better. You were still the same as the team that we started, and that's a good assessment to make. We at what point do we say we haven't grown? If this was the end of the World Cup and we got to the quinto partido, we have a decision to make. Do we continue with Osorio, even though he's not going to get us anywhere, or he didn't get us anywhere, or do we keep doing that process and maybe a 8-year process is finally going to get us to that world elite? Yeah. So we don't know where it's going.
Just a quick point though. I mean, if you want a manager who's going to take over the long term do something, then it has to be someone. It has to be someone like Osorio. Yeah. Someone who absolutely thinks about the game, who's got a long-term vision, who's got a philosophy, a methodology. Who's I don't know. He's a student of the game. He knows what he's doing. Anybody who says he doesn't know what he's doing is just complete, or he's making these decisions up. You can agree with him or disagree with him, but these are well thought out decisions based on his methodology, his way of working. And
but
I think that
working though, Tom. I mean, opposition against Germany was horrible.
I think when you take a step back, you look at how well he's doing with World Cup qualifying.
No,
I
true.
think,
You can make
he's
excuses
getting
with those against CONCACAF teams.
But what I'm saying, it seems really obvious to me that if Mexico is to make a jump forward, no Mexican team's ever beaten a real elite side in a major competition outside of Mexico.
True, I know, and that's where.
No, never.
But being embarrassed in the way that it is.
I don't think it was embarrassed against Germany. I definitely think against Chile because I think Mexico gave up. Whereas I think against Germany, it was Germany
could have scored more goals.
Yeah, no, but Mexico could have scored more goals as well. I'm just thinking that's just one game. I'm saying if Mexico is to move forward, it's going to be because it's not going to be like Piojo comes in for a year and then suddenly Mexico win a World Cup. It's going to be because there was absolutely proper work done for many years behind the scenes. And if you're going to bring in someone to do that work, then it's going to be someone like Osorio. It's not going to be Herrera. I'll tell you that much right now because he's not thinking. He doesn't have the I don't know. I don't know about the capacity, but his mind doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And speaking of Herrera, it's just like, I mean, who would be a realistic substitute right now for Osorio? Like, who would actually be willing to take on this Mexican project, who is a better option than Osorio, who would have the patience that Osorio has, and like Tom said, that just that long-term planning.
Tuca.
I don't know.
He won't accept.
I know he won't accept, but I'm just saying. I think Tuca. If we have to do anything, keep Tuca and see where it goes.
Nah, I don't know. I'm not convinced.
No. He's not gonna go anywhere. I mean, let's be realistic. He's not gonna go anywhere. And for those that are calling out for his head, guys, there is nobody out there. You think that there's people out here lining up for Mexico, and that's one of the reasons why it will take a very long process to find someone, and even then, have 7 months before a World Cup. That's what people don't understand. Sack him. Who's gonna come in?
Well,
Almeida? No.
Who'd be willing to do that? Who'd be willing to do that? I think. Yeah.
No, I think this is an important reason why Osorio has to stay because the Mexican national team coaching position is a joke on a world level.
Yeah,
it's a joke because you don't get time to work. You get the expectation is so great, and the reality is that what we talked about, the first thing we said in the show is a team that's number 15 to 20 in the world, but is expected to go. To go really far in the World Cup, when you have to go beyond what is rational to succeed, and that's the problem. But if Osorio isn't given time, then I mean the really serious managers out there in the world who would consider Mexico, because it's an attractive nation to manage in some ways, they're just not going to consider it. Osorio considered it because he's not got a big name, so he didn't have much to lose. It was a risk for him, and he's taken a risk, and he knows that if he can reach the quarterfinal, then the Premier League or a La Liga club or a French club will be looking at him.
Yeah. I'm reading in the chat that Weasel keeps contradicting himself. It's not that I'm contradicting myself. It's the fact that I could just see both sides. It's hilarious because I want Mexico to make that extra change, and I feel that with Osorio it's not happening. But I don't want to keep changing managers because there really isn't anyone there. So I'm like, I'm true. I keep contradicting myself because I'd hate to be that decision, and you just got to stick with one because you're gonna go. I mean, you guys are fully on keep Osorio. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if that's the right thing. Like,
it's. I mean, my perspective, it's keep Osorio, but I'm not thrilled about it. Keep Osorio.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think a fair answer would be I don't know. I don't know if it's worse for Mexico, and that's my position. After the 7-0, I knew we shouldn't fire him. I gave him the chance.
Oh, yeah.
After now, if the FMF says we're letting go of Osorio, I think I'm going to be like, man, all right, here we go. But I'm not going to get completely, and utterly upset that why are we giving away Osorio? I don't know where I'm at on that. So yes, I'm contradicting myself, and ask me next year if that was right. All right, Confederations Cup is gone. And here comes the Gold Cup. All of a sudden, every 2 years, this tournament that is never going to go away. It's going to continue to be 2 years. We all know the reasons, but it starts already on Sunday for Mexico. It starts on Friday, I think, for the rest of the CONCACAF. I think the U.S. plays on Saturday. Costa Rica, I think, plays on Friday. Yeah. And here comes at least a tournament where let's look at it this way. Maybe we are going like the Germans and sending our youngsters to a tournament and we're able to win. That's what a proceso is all about. If you go back to that Copa America that we sent the Gios, the Aquinos, and all those guys, pretty much the same squad that went to the Olympics, it created them, and they were able to get that exposure against a bit better teams, and it overall helped them. So this is these youngsters are getting international play. Yes, it's against CONCACAF, but it's still good. So let's go on there. Cesar and Tom, tell me, what does everybody need to know about this Gold Cup squad? First of all, can they win this Gold Cup?
I think they could win it. I think they most definitely can. I don't think when you're looking at the rest of the competition, I don't think there's any reason why they shouldn't be able to win it. Is it going to be tough? Yeah, most definitely, especially around the semifinal or final. You know, you never know against a side like Costa Rica or the United States. But no, you know, and especially with a lot of these young players, where a lot of these players represent, like Tom wrote about recently, the next generation for El Tri. Especially when you look at certain spots from that Confed Cup roster where you need a little bit more depth, or you need someone to step up and push for that starting spot. You need someone like a Eric Gutierrez, an Orbelin Pineda, or even someone like a Kubo to really step up and just, take the national team to another level. So, and then we've been talking about this for a while too. It's just right now, most of the current national team, the first team, everyone's in their late 20s, early 30s, and we need these young kids to step up. So, yeah, I think they have the potential to do it, and I'm going to say, yeah, I think Mexico's going to win it all.
Tom, is there any? What's like a failure? Like not getting out of the group stage, semi. I mean, let's put the FMF likes to do this. So where's it needs to win? Maybe he loses at the semifinal with these guys. And remember, the U.S. is going to sub in some of their good players in that 40 roster. Weird switching out players thing that the Gold Cup has. So I think there's going to be some competition in the later rounds.
How does that work?
Exactly, because the Gold Cup. Yeah, I think up to 5 or 6 players can be switched out of the first round.
Yeah, after the group stage, you're able to do that. Yeah,
that's where the Bradleys and Dempseys, or no, Pulisic could even be a part of it because he's in that 40-man roster, right? I don't know if.
I think they'll probably switch in the MLS base, won't they? Like Howard and Dempsey and Bradley and all that.
If they're on that 40, but to you, what's a good measuring stick for a positive Gold Cup with the youngsters? Final, semi-final.
I'm gonna avoid the question. No, for the reason that I don't know. Yeah, obviously, I think there's.
He's like, I just got back from Russia. So stop asking.
I think there's two strands of thinking. I mean, basically, that's the debate in Mexico. What's a fracaso? Because before the competition, it's always about the obligados and fracasos. The two words. Every press conference, in every Mexican press conference, is like obligados, fracaso, and it's like sometimes it's like,
Mexico doesn't get out of the group stage. Osorio is coaching. Rotaciones for everyone.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Getting out of the group stage would be an absolute disaster, like no doubt about it. But I mean, in terms of winning it, I don't think Mexico's necessarily favourite. I think the States are probably favourite. I think Mexico are obviously up there in Costa Rica. I think those three are quite a long way ahead of the rest. But if somebody said to me, "Do you want to win the Gold Cup, or do you want, Jesus Gallardo?" Because I think Mexico need a left back or a left wing back or a left wing or wherever he can prove himself. Hopefully left back, because I think that's the position most needed.
Gosh, we need one better.
If Cesar Montes, Edson Alvarez can step up and absolutely show themselves. Orbelin Pineda, we know what he can do. If you can say, right, give me those 4 players who are absolutely sensational, that prove themselves not just on the field but in training and around camp, that they're ready for full international football. I'd prefer that. Give me those 4 players to make a real impact on this tournament than winning the thing, because I don't think the tournament's, it's not a great tournament. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but would Osorio be willing to take that risk, especially after the Confederations Cup? I mean, I'm not going to say the Confederations Cup was a success or a failure. It was the most average of average, the most minimum requirements there. But I feel like after that, I'm not sure if he'll be looking at some of those younger players.
This is still a tournament that he needs to win and doesn't do well in.
Yeah, I mean, he said he doesn't. Osorio said he doesn't read the press, doesn't watch TV shows. Yeah, but at the end of the day, he needs to live by that in this tournament. He needs to, he needs to absolutely forget about all the Mexico have to win the tournament. No, for me, this is about players coming through and showing they're good enough and they've got a future with the national team. I know that sounds a bit boring, and for fans, it's definitely like, what's he on about? You know what I mean? But I honestly just think it's way more important. And I think, if Germany hadn't won the Confederations Cup, it wouldn't have been a disaster. They would have seen, if they'd have lost that final against Chile, which they could have done easily, then I think everyone would have been okay. Well, we've got 4, 5, 6 players who are absolutely ready now to challenge for first team spots, and I think Mexico need that. That's what we want to see from this Mexico team.
I think still, this is a different idea. I think still, if Mexico doesn't make the final, I think that would still be seen as a failure on my own perspective. Just looking at the rosters from all the teams, I think Mexico should be expecting.
Costa Rica's got a pretty good roster, except the only person that's missing from Costa Rica is Keylor Navas.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, as a team that plays, you'd be surprised if maybe they want to do something. Talking to Tico fans, this is a tournament they're going to take seriously and going to want to win. And I think Canada's the only one that's ever won a Gold Cup, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was weird.
Mexico, US, all the way.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Obviously, what are we talked already kind of a little bit about players and the talent that Mexico has in this, but we talked about the opposition. Cesar, you saw the Paraguay, and you saw the Ghana match. Is there anything else that we need to be looking for, or at least are we ready for this tournament?
I think so. I think there are a couple players who impressed me. I think Elias Hernandez now seems to be taking charge of that right wing position. I think he was arguably Mexico's most dangerous player from those 2 friendlies. I was quite impressed with Chuy Corona in net. It seems like he's likely to start back there. I think also Jesus Dueñas, who he's a very versatile option. I think he did quite well, and he's probably playing in that. It looks like he might be in a more attacking midfielder, kind of maybe not switching into defensive midfield role a little bit there. And of course Eric Gutierrez. But yeah, no, I think Elias Hernandez, he was just brilliant in those 2 friendlies. He got 2 goals. He was exciting on that right wing, and I think he's definitely named to watch out for. Just because, just like I said, how well he did in those last 2 friendlies and how he really stepped up. He's just a name who's been a lot of people have said he's like an underrated option for quite some time, and now he's going to get this stage to not only like get some minutes, but likely a starting role for Mexico. So I'm excited to see how he does.
No, I think he's good. I think he's a good player. We've seen in Leon, for a few years now. He's a top. Liga MX, he's a top winger. The only problem that I've got is that, how is he going to get in the team? How is he going to get in the Mexico team with Lozano, Aquino?
There's rotations.
Vela? No, but there's only so many rotations.
Jürgen
Damm got in the team, and he started for them.
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying he's going to the World Cup. I wouldn't be surprised though with how Mexico is doing the World Cup qualifying, that once some of those late qualifiers come around, and if Elias Hernandez does quite well in this Gold Cup, that he might be sneaking into some of those rosters for World Cup qualifiers this year.
No, I just wish he was 22 and not 29. You know what I mean? I don't know. I like him. He's a good player, but it doesn't excite me because he's got 3 years.
We need a right back.
So Tom, what are your thoughts on that promising goalkeeper Corona?
He's got a big future. Big future, that kid. And Moises Munoz.
Who's the third goalkeeper
in there as well next 10 years?
Who's the third goalkeeper that they brought for the Gold Cup?
Fraga, yeah.
Fraga from Atlas.
What? I'm not gonna lie. The only reason why I knew about Fraga for quite some time is just because he had a really funny mustache. And I just followed him on Instagram. I like show photos to my girlfriend. Like, yeah, look at this guy. He plays Liga MX. He looks like he should be a bartender in the 1920s. But, I don't know.
On the chat, people are
doesn't have it anymore.
about, especially what we're talking about, kind of keepers, young keepers. The news of Jesse Gonzalez going to be obviously not playing for the US.
Disappointing. There's so few young Mexican goalkeepers out there getting regular minutes in First Division. You never know with goalkeepers with the development. He's still very young, but it's disappointing because he said so many times that he wants to play for Mexico. That's why I don't really understand. What's happened? Because he's thanked the Mexican Federation. I don't understand because he's not been. He's even told me as well that he wants to, you know, he feels Mexican. He wants to play for Mexico. It's like
he told you, Tom, that he wants to play.
Yeah, and yeah, a couple of years ago now. But he said it consistently in interviews, and I don't understand that why the rush now to, you know, to be involved with this with the US all of a sudden. I mean, what's the promise? And I don't know. I mean, you know, obviously it's good for the US, no doubt about it. It's a coup. Yeah. You know, but at the end of the day, for US fans, it's like there's absolutely no doubt that this kid would likely prefer to play for Mexico. I mean, I don't think they should kid themselves.
I just see on that conversation, I see William Yarbrough. Where is he now? You know?
Yeah.
And I don't think unless that these players that the US is trying to get are worthy of a call-up for the US. You know, Yarbrough was not in the top 3 to call him up. And I think that's where the U.S. is making a mistake, and it's not benefiting Mexico because usually I'm okay with Mexico with the U.S. making a mistake, but it's like it's ruining both of us because either they call him and they cap him and they'll never call him again, and they're snatching him from Mexico. Maybe that's the strategy because again, I look back at William Yarbrough. He said he wanted to play for Mexico. I
think at the time that when we were talking about Yarbrough, though, we looked at our current lineup of goalkeepers and we felt like we were okay for a little bit longer. Now it's a couple years later. Now it's a couple.
Said he was the 8th keeper.
That's a couple years later. Now we're. I mean, I'm legitimately worried just looking at some of those young options. You know, I think Lahoud. I think he did a decent job. Gabriel Lahoud, starting goalkeeper for Xolos. I think he did a decent.
job. Sorry. I was thinking of your boy Porto.
Oh no. You talk about Godinho. No, Godinho. We haven't. He's training with the Porto's first team right now. But I mean.
I don't know, guys. I'm not that worried about. Everyone keeps talking about we don't have any young. I'm not that worried. We've always had really good goalkeepers, and the old ones are the ones that are stepping up. I don't think we need a 23-year-old goalkeeper to keep us in the head because if I look at the history of goalkeepers in Mexico that I remember, they're all that did well are all in their 28 to 35 range.
I guess I'm just worried about like who the true like a successor to Ochoa. I just don't.
But again, those 28-year-old, 27, 28, they're going to come up. I don't know if it's Lahoud, and when he's older, when he's 29, 30, is when he's going to have his best. No. It's a different mentality when it comes to goalkeepers, and I'm not that worried like everyone thinks. Oh, we don't have any young ones. If I look back 10 years ago, yeah, Ochoa was there. I remember Ochoa being the young keeper, but it's not like he was given the chance anyways until Osvaldo Sanchez. And then even then, he still wasn't given the chance. So at what point do we say that, all right, we have these goalkeepers coming up?
But I don't know who there is. You know what I mean? Yeah. At least then you could see, you had.
I know. Other than Ochoa, I mean, it's not like Jesus Corona. We're like, oh, let's keep an eye on this guy.
Yeah, but you know, you had Corona, you had even
or Talavera. That's what I'm saying. Like it wasn't like we were kept an eye. We didn't keep an eye on Talavera when he was 18, 19, 20, 21, 23. All of a sudden in 2011, we're like, hey, there's Talavera, and then Talavera got his chance, and he wasn't like he was a young kid.
But also. Go on.
Also, those are supposed to be taking Ochoa's place in the immediate future. I'm just not that excited by. I mean, they're decent options, you know, like Orozco or maybe Ocota, but they're just not on the same level. It's just not. They're not exciting options. It's just not something that
you won't get an exciting option. That's what I'm trying to get. That until they're older, until they're getting that. I mean, that's what I'm getting at. In Mexico's keeper.
Guys are in their late 20s.
I know. And I think that's when, let's say Ochoa gives 2 more years, and Ochoa's got 3 years.
No, more than that. More.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, so let's say Ochoa gets 2 more World Cups. In that sense, we could see Ocota all of a sudden become a really good keeper, and it just kind of keeps that cycle of we always have older keepers.
Yeah, but you can't rest on your laurels. I mean, it's easy to say you always had, but what about the future? And I think the thing with Jesse Gonzalez is what happens if he becomes that keeper. You know, what happens if he becomes that?
I'll give you that.
Top CONCACAF keeper. And I think the United States are very intelligent bringing him in. And I'm a bit disappointed with Osorio, to be honest, because I thought he could have called him in for this Gold Cup. If you look historically, how many times a third keeper gets minutes? Like Osorio could have brought him into this Gold Cup squad, giving him a game, captained him. He wanted to play for Mexico anyway. You know what I mean? And I'm just a bit disappointed that they went on the ball with that.
But why even do that if they don't deserve? That just sends a message. Hey, if you're Mexican and American, and we might see that you're going to be really good.
He's a good player.
It's not about being Mexican American. It's about there's very few young Mexican keepers, and it's exactly the same philosophy as what happened with Edson Alvarez, who went over to the Confederations Cup, and Magoya, who went over for experience, to be with the squad, to be in that environment. And I don't think there's any reason Jesse Gonzalez couldn't have been taken over there for the Gold Cup for exactly the same reason, to train with the team so Osorio gets to know him. Because at the end of the day, what are Mexico getting from bringing Moises Munoz to the Gold Cup? I mean,
a backup keeper.
No,
a backup keeper.
but
I mean, if something happens with his back with Corona, you have Moises Munoz.
No, but it's much more than just like a just a Mexican American kid who could go to Mexico. No, he's a decent option. You watch some of his games with what he's done for Dallas. No, he's excellent, and you saw some of the stuff.
Okay, I'm not.
But I make the same argument with Laoud as well. I mean, he should have been brought in as. I mean, I would have brought one of your experienced keepers, Laoud, and then Jesse Gonzalez. I mean, and then you got your three keepers. If one of them gets injured, you're at the Gold Cup. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're not at the World Cup. You put in a keeper who plays regular in MLS or regular in Liga MX. It's not like they don't know what they're doing in goal. I don't think they missed an opportunity to kind of bring through a younger keeper. And I don't see those younger keepers. And I think it is worrying. It is a slight worry. But I do agree with you. We saw that obviously keepers develop later, and let's see what comes through. But the other thing to add is that if you look at Liga MX now compared to 10 years ago, there are more and more foreign keepers now. It's not as easy for Mexican keepers to get a regular start.
Yeah,
true. Yeah, no, I just don't want to go in the business of let's try to cap someone that doesn't deserve it.
Yeah, no, and it's fair. I mean, I think you've got to be honest with these kids as well.
Yeah,
I think from a moral, personal point of view, you got to be honest. But also,
you're already going to the sub-20s. You're already going to the sub-17. You're doing exactly what we want you to do. And look at the people that we're bringing from. You know, it's hard to even make Mexican kids to make that jump. Understandable, but keep doing what you're doing. And I heard, for some reason, I'm getting back in my head that he did have some kind of talk with Osorio.
He's spoken to him. Osorio's spoken to him. I know that for a fact. Osorio's spoken to him, and I know there was the possibility he would be called up into the Mexico squad later in the year. You know, if Mexico was already to be qualified for the World Cup. But obviously the US thing, I believe there's a link with an agent and something and the US. So I think there's something, you know, there's a pull factor there. It's never the defining factor, but I think there's a feeling that, I don't know how to put this, but there's a feeling that within the US there's a bit more stability, perhaps. You know, in terms of the coaching. Look at Osorio now, for example. Osorio called him a few weeks ago. And now he's like, everybody's going, get out Osorio. Hugo Sanchez is, get Osorio. And I think in the US, it's kind of a bit more chilled out. I know they got rid of Klinsmann, but he had a long time. And Bruce Arena, if he wants to keep the job, I'm sure if he gets into the World Cup, he can carry on there. So, I don't know. I just think the consistency of the US, the stability, does influence these kids as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll give you that. It's harder to make the team for Mexico. I mean, let's just go down to it. I mean, you're a Mexican American, it's going to be a lot harder to Mexican team, and who knows if I'll ever get a chance. And if I say no to the U.S. now, I mean that's what I'm saying. It's like, is this your call up? I'm going to say no, but I'll still keep it open if Mexico doesn't call me.
Yeah, but now I think the important thing is
why do you have to say yes now? I'm not ready.
Now that Jesse, he's clearly going to be playing for the U.S. men's national team, now it's time for those options that we just talked about, like who to step up. Gudinho, let's see, maybe if he is going to be doing something in Porto, who knows? Who knows? He's training with Porto, you never know. But I'm mostly checking with you guys. But no, like I said, I want to hopefully see like getting minutes in a league where, like we just talked about, where it's tough for Mexican goalkeepers, especially young Mexican goalkeepers, to be getting minutes. So let's hope.
I like him as well. He's a bit crazy. He's got personality. Yeah, I like that kind of personality, like Jorge Campos and all that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Really quick before we end, I think we're getting really late. Some news that are coming in. Guardado, I think, taking a step down almost with the news of Betis. But big news coming from Briseño, El Pollo Briseño, going to a team in Portugal, and then a Santos U20 kid, Cesar. I mean, you're always looking at the under the development
from Guadalajara. He
came from Fabian's camp. Big guy, big, kind of like you have that physical type of player. Well, we haven't seen Mexico having the forward spot. Hopefully, good luck to that. But Tom, your reactions to those?
I think he has a Cameroonian father and a Mexican mother, if I remember correctly. Yeah. But Tom, you probably know a little bit more since he's from Guadalajara. But...
No, he's a good player. He's got something about him. He's quick, good in the air. I've seen him play a few times. He was at Chivas and then he went to Santos Laguna. And yeah, I think great move, absolutely great move. Looking forward to it. And Briseño, he's got his opportunity now. I didn't think he was that great for Veracruz. He was played as a left back for some reason by Reynoso. No idea why. But yeah, I mean, it's both of them now. They've got a chance to prove himself over there. So hopefully it happens.
Yeah, and then Guardado's linked to, like we said, to Betis.
I think it's a decent move. I think La Liga is much better than Eredivisie.
I think I guess maybe team-wise.
I mean, when you consider the options where he was strongly linked with Major League Soccer as well.
Yeah.
I think
it's a better move.
But he was strongly for MLS, and like we just said, he was playing Eredivisie. So I think this is a lot of people think it's a step down just because of the team. No, I think it's going to be good for him to going up against top competition every weekend. So
yeah, I think he can be there 3 years now. I mean, it depends what he wants from his life and all that with his wife and kid and stuff. But he can be there 3 years. Sevilla's a beautiful place.
His son was born in Spain, I think.
Not sure.
Yeah, no, definitely a step up from the MLS, and I believe a step down from some kind of in the middle. All right, guys. Tom, you're going to be traveling to San Diego?
Yep, be there on Cesar's picking me up.
Yeah,
Cesar?
I hope.
I'll be playing Uber. So
Cesar, you're going to be in San Diego too. I'll be in San Diego too. Amy's going to be in San Diego, so definitely going to have. I'm sure we'll put together and put a quick show before that. But thank you to all in the chat, all of our new. I know we had a lot of new members coming on and joining us, and obviously everybody that's already there, continuing to support here at the soportarnos here at the Mexican Soccer Show. We went a little late, but we'll continue.
But it wasn't a fracaso, though. It wasn't. So
it wasn't a fracaso. It was a good
fracaso. Yeah.
All right, guys.
Maybe a fracaso. I don't know. We'll debate that next week.
Our producer, Jason Markowitz, and also Amy, who was live tweeting there, and all of us at the Mexican Soccer Show. Hasta la próxima. Nos vemos. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.